Hi, everybody, and welcome to Tuesdays at 2. This is always one of my favorite subjects to discuss when we get John Sadler on the line and when we talk about all things West Coast, which is what John is in charge of for our stable. It has been it's been an exciting, exhilarating time over the past, say, 48 hours with our good friend Slider qualifying, well, basically stamping his ticket for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. But this is also a chance to talk to an old friend, somebody that we've gotten to know very, very well over the past couple of years, somebody who works wonderfully with us and with our partners. And we're delighted, John, that you could join us this afternoon.
It's fun to be here. I want to say hi to all the partners. I hope I saw a lot of you last weekend. It looked like we had great turnout. So good morning for me.
And I think I saw Terry Finley on the line, so we'll have him as well. We're well stocked with expertise and with conversation pieces. If you don't know John Sadler, if you're relatively new, John was recently nominated to the Racing Hall of Fame this year, and we're looking forward to the day when he gets the call for his induction. Based on the work that he's done with the likes of Flightline, Accelerate, with both winners of the Breeders' Cup Classic, as well as champion Stellar Wind, an incredible 4 Pacific Classic winners in 5 years. And we're hoping that the West Point horses, just like Flightline, continue to make John, a superstar in the game. He takes the raw material and does a fabulous job with his team in developing these horses and making them at their best. It's getting closer to Breeders' Cup time again, and you think it's incredible to contemplate that it was about a year ago on that amazing day at Keeneland when Flightline delivered his swan song. I don't know. It was so emphatic. It was like an opera aria in the Breeders' Cup Classic. So, John, as we take a look at the race, what's your sense of how Flightline's first season at Stud went and how he settled into the lane 10?
You didn't really come across clear there, Jeff. I think because I'm fighting the noise of
Well, one of the things, we just wanted to know what you thought of his first season at Stud and how he settled in.
Yeah, he's all reports, I follow very closely, and all of the reports are great. I saw him when I was there in September. He looked fabulous. He got the really high rate of mares in foal, didn't have any problems breeding. So once again, he's showing himself just an absolute standout. So I know they're looking forward to year 2, and he's going to be ready.
I have to ask you, and I know this is a question that's been oft asked, but it's been a year, so we've got a little bit of delay here to refresh our memory. When in this race did you think you were in good shape?
When they broke from the gate. I had reservations about how far Life is Good wanted to run, how far he wanted to run. So I thought we were in good shape all the way around. There was a little problem, I think, with the timing. Remember, they put up some original splits that they decided weren't quite right. So, when you're seeing the looking at the clock, the splits on it, you were a little shaking your head a little bit. But even that didn't bother me. He always looked comfortable. I knew when he, the only ever fear with Flightline was maybe he wouldn't get out or run into a lot of trouble. But once he got in clear, he was going to beat anybody. So once he was clear, got his position, I felt very good.
Well, there's Flavian congratulating the horse. It was an incredible run for him as well, and it was for all of us. So we thank you again for that. It's something we can look forward to talking about on a regular basis for the next, 10 years probably. Now we know that we've got Slider looking towards the Breeders' Cup after his stakes win over the weekend, and it's just great to have the Breeders' Cup right there in your home court at Santa Anita. And I know that you've got a couple of other horses besides Slider that are going to be a part of your Breeders' Cup lineup. So what's that look like?
Looks good. Slider, I think to me looks very solid in the juvenile turf. Any horse that's as genuine as him and has speed like him, he's kind of say, what kind of horse do you want in that race? He'd be the one I'd want. So we're looking forward to that. I've got him down probably to work twice before the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Came out of the race well. He's going to go back to the track tomorrow. And then we'll just move forward toward that first weekend in November. Very excited. We'll see. It's hard to get a gauge this far out on what Euros are coming or other horses from around the globe, but certainly excited for that race. We're also going to run a mare called Kirstenbosch in the filly and mare sprint. 7/8 of a mile. She's won the prep over here, the Chillingsworth. She's got a good record and running good numbers also. Looking forward to that. We're going to look at, Mary for that Ken Matty race that's on the undercard. That's Breeders' Cup week. And we're going to look at maybe there's the marathon, the TAA stake for Miss the Cut, who won the Tokyo City. So we're going to be busy all week.
Great to hear, and congratulations with all those other horses as well, too. Now, we've got a lot to cover, so we'll head right into the horses. But before we do that, we want to just talk about the new purchases, the new horses that we have with John. We have a trio of new yearlings from the Keeneland September sale. They're now in Ocala, beginning to start breaking and getting their early training and development process going. Those are colts by Gunrunner, Not This Time, and Tap It. And John, I know that over the years, you've had different people that have done that development work, including the Mayberries. We're going to be using Dr. Eisman this year for those horses. And I just wanted to know, do you have, a relationship with John, and how close contact will you be over the months as we lead up to when they come out to see you?
Oh, I'll be getting weekly reports, on the yearlings in Ocala. I plan on going down there fairly early because I'm so excited. I'll probably go down there in, I guess, January or February at the latest and check on them. The first reports are in that all of them arrived safely down there, doing well. So that's going to be a very exciting time. And what I love too is if you look at those three you mentioned, Gunrunner, solid. Not This Time, just getting better by the day. And the other one is Tap It. I mean, what's not to like? You have to get lucky in horses, but I like, it's like a poker game. When you look at your cards and they haven't gone to the flop yet, but you look at your cards and you're kind of, okay, I can work with this.
I love it. That's a great analogy. We also want to touch briefly on the two new Calbred yearlings that John had a big hand in picking out at the Fasig-Tipton Calbred sale a couple of weeks ago, right there in Pomona. We bought a filly by Violence, and Violence is, not only the sire of the Florida Derby winner Forte, but he had a stakes winner named Lost Ark over the weekend in the Jockey Club Derby at Aqueduct. The price for the filly is very reasonable, and John, this was a filly that the team, mostly you and Juan and me at the sale, really loved in terms of her athleticism and what she could be at some point.
Absolutely. I mean, there was, I think we all looked at her and we all came to the same conclusion. She was nice. She's medium sized. Violence is obviously, done well. He gets a lot of horses that can run. Calbred, it just didn't seem like it was a hard decision. Thank God you're with me there. I might have bought her for myself if I, just not a hard decision. A nice filly, and looking forward to getting her in next year.
I think we have about 20% or less left on her. So if you're interested, get in touch with your rep. She's going fast. And then the sales topper at that particular sale, the Fasig-Tipton sale, was a colt by Vronsky, which is a Danzig line stallion who had been really on a roll with Calbreds, winning some big races in open company at Del Mar this summer. And he had a colt win the Grade 1 Bing Crosby and a filly win the Grade 2 John C. Maybe on the turf. So Vronsky, although he's no longer with us, is still extremely productive and recent and current. John, your take on this particular colt was more than educated because you trained his half brother, who's earned, I think, close to $400,000 at the racetrack. He was a standout at this sale, this particular individual.
Yeah, he looked. I wanted to like him before I ever went over there because we have the half brother, and the half brother's quite a runner. He'll run Saturday in a state called the California Flag, and I'm sure he'll probably be favorite. So this colt is actually a better version of the one that I have in the barn. So Calbred, sky's the limit here. And I think you're right to bring up Bronski because a lot of times, they'll say Bronski, that's a Calbred stallion, but he had the closing arguments that won 2 group races at Del Mar and Open Company. Like the other horse you mentioned, the Chosen Bronze, won 8 in a row. So he's a son of Danzig, a good stallion. So I think for a Calbred, it's going to give us tremendous options. The one thing we've seen with the Kings River Knight is he's run on all surfaces. He's won on turf. He's won on synthetic. He's won on dirt. And you can say the same thing for his other big winners. Run on many surfaces, many distances. So I think this is a nice colt. If you want to be in a Calbred stake program, this is the horse to have going into next year.
Yes, and we've got, I think, right around the same amount left on him. 30, 25, somewhere in that neighborhood is left on that particular colt. Once again, going fairly quickly now. And if you're interested, get in touch with your rep. All right, let's go over the current roster with John. We'll start alphabetically with Concord Bridge. He's raced one time. He's a son of Medaglia d'Oro out of a mare by the name of Pauline Revere. And the way things played out at Del Mar, we debuted him in the same race that Slider won, but it was time. He was ready. Concord Bridge ran a nice race himself. He finished 5th, but looked good doing it. And the outlook was to get a sprint under his belt before stretching around 2 turns at Santa Anita. John, I know you thought about trying him in the Grade 1 American Pharaoh, but you thought again and maybe waiting for the maiden special weight this coming weekend, and he worked on Saturday. How did that work go?
Good, really a nice work. Went in a minute, looked very good doing it. We expect him to be better as he goes, further, be by Medaglia d'Oro. And we're excited to get him Saturday at a mile. Entry days tomorrow. So that's going to be great. And, he's a distance loving 2-year-old colt. So we're looking forward to getting him going. Saturday will be a second start. We have high hopes. And, if you guys are in town, get out here Saturday the 15th, Concord Bridge.
Elector is next. He's a 2-time winner. He's run some very fast races in his career. He's coming off a kind of an unusual foot injury, and he's just about ready for a race off of that layoff. What's been your impression, and equally as important, the crew over there at Los Al that's been seeing him on a regular basis? What's their impression about the coming trail for him?
Well, he's been here at Santa Anita for his last 2 works. He's absolutely ready to run. We're kind of shopping for a race. We know that he likes to have a race where he's in front. So we're looking kind of race shopping to get the perfect spot on the way back. He's ready to go. So he could be in this weekend if I get the right extra, or right around Breeders' Cup time. But he's come back from the injury well. Looks good. So in the entry soon.
There's no way of telling, sort of where his mental state is. I know that there were a couple of times where, he didn't get the lead. And I think he was a little bit frustrated, if you can put that type of thought process in a horse's head. But what's been your take on him just these past 2 weeks that you've seen him face to face in terms of the mental part of the game?
Good. I mean, so far, so good. The proof is in the pudding when we get out there in the afternoon. But right now for training and soundness, he's doing great. We'll get him in and give him a good shot.
Excellent. Final boss, we'll move on to him. He's a 2-year-old colt approaching his 2nd career start. He got stuck on the also eligible list over the weekend for a turf maiden at Santa Anita. And now he's going to point for the same spot Thursday of Breeders' Cup weekend. That's November the 2nd. And I know a lot of partners are going to be in town by that point. It's exciting to have a horse running, Breeders' Cup time, maiden, it doesn't really matter. It's just fun to be a part of the action. So, John, I know this colt has had some tremendous works over the summertime, having been up there, and he just didn't carry that over into his first race on the dirt at Del Mar. With his action and his pedigree, I think you felt pretty quickly he leans towards the turf.
Yeah, I mean, the training track plays a little bit like the turf course, so we worked him out there. When he didn't get in on Saturday or Sunday, whatever day it was, we worked him yesterday, and he had a really good work yesterday. I don't know if it was the bullet, but it was a very impressive work. So maybe everything goes for a reason. Maybe it was time to get one more work before we go on November 2nd. But he's all set. He'll get in November 2nd. They all have an equal draw for this one. So he'll have preference over everything that's run this meet. So I'm looking forward to November 2nd and getting him on the grass.
Perfect. Another grass horse that we want to talk about here is Hawker. It's a 3-year-old colt gearing up for his first start since March. Broke his maiden last January. He came out of a stakes race at Santa Anita, needing some arthroscopic knee surgery. Now he's back, just about ready to race. And I think, John, you were telling us the other day that he's really training on the improve. What have you seen that tells you that?
Just looks like a horse that the time off really helped him. He's training better than ever. He looks better than ever, working better than ever. And this is going to give you a reason to stick around for Sunday morning after the Breeders' Cup. If you're too hungover and don't want to catch your flight, come to the races on the 5th, and he'll start his debut on the 5th. There's the non-winners on the turf, 6 furlongs. He's coming back, really training really well. So that's just kind of we have the race on the 5th. Just got the last book a few days ago. So he'll be back in the entry box on the 5th, day after the Breeders' Cup. Well,
there may be a few people celebrating, so that might be a possibility. We hope that we're celebrating a couple of Breeders' Cup wins ourselves. Indispensable. 2-year-old son of Constitution, trained very well after his debut. That we took, a big step last weekend in the American Pharoah Stakes, which was kind of a unique Grade 1 where maidens, horses that hadn't broken their maiden, made up nearly half or about half of the field. He ran evenly, finished 6th, I believe, improving a bit to a 62 buyer. And John, how did he come back from that race?
Came back well, came out of it good. It was probably my fault. I was maybe a little ambitious on his second start. This is another colt that's a natural for a distance. I think as the fall progresses, get into next year, he's going to make a nice horse for us. Maybe the boy said he was a little green running into the dirt. All the things that you kind of got to go through a little bit, with a young horse, getting him seasoned, as we say. But he came out of it good. We'll go back in a maiden after this race and get him an easier spot and see how he develops.
2 turns for his next start, I would assume?
Absolutely.
Yep. Metro is a horse we're going to switch to now. It's a 2-year-old son of Quality Road. Boy, was he a standout at the Keeneland September sale a year ago. And he's been galloping away. John's been telling us all along he's a later developing colt, and he is massive. He's just a big, big colt, and we're not going to rush him.
Yeah, he's one that was a little immature when he came in from Florida and needed the time. So what we're doing is he's galloping great. So he should probably be on the work tab in November. And I'm looking forward, to getting him started the start of Santa Anita. And obviously, look at that picture. He's a great looking horse. He wasn't designed to breed particularly early, but all the upside in the world here. And, stay tuned because, when we get a couple weeks from now, we'll have a lot more interesting stuff to say.
Perfect. I know this was a horse that you and David and Terry all absolutely fell in love with as a yearling, and lots of
so did Coolmore.
Yeah, this is true. Mocha Grande. Let's move on to her. She's a 2-year-old filly. She's raced 3 times. Last couple of races been on the turf, and last Friday, she had to have had one of the worst luck runs you've seen on the grass And that can happen because grass racing can be like that. But she just had traffic the whole way around, never got to show her best. John, do you have additional thoughts on the race?
Well, yeah, I can tell you what Juan Hernandez says. As she was moving into the stretch, she caught the perfect storm where one horse was coming out, one horse was coming in, and she was in the middle. So he said, John, we were going to be right there when she took a pretty severe bump, just when she's getting running, coming in between horses. So not a great run. I mean, as far as having some racing luck, but she's a nice filly, came out of it well. We look forward to, running her back at Del Mar Fall. And I think, I still don't know exactly 100% what she wants. Does she want to run dirt or grass? We'll leave all the options on the table and go on to the next race. But traffic, hurt her the other day, and she took a little bump or two.
It never looked like she got to be completely comfortable. And that's, that can be a turf race. And sometimes that's just based on where you break from and not being able to get out and get into a rhythm. So I get that. Moonlight Mile is a 3-year-old filly, and she's on the sidelines right now. We did a nuclear scan about 10 days ago. There was some inflammation in her shoulder. It's going to require about 3 months out of training, which will be, unfortunately, the second time she's needed an extended break. I know, John, you were really tickled with how this filly was training for a stretch this summer. She really put together a nice series of works, and she's big and she's strong. She's a beautiful filly. Do you think that really her size and her frame and how she hits the ground may be the challenge here to keep her on a straight line?
Yeah, I mean, she's one that when we bought her, she was just about perfect, and then she's like the kid that shot up. She's one of the biggest horses in the barn now. She just got tremendous growth spurts, and she's had a little trouble staying together. I mean, I think she's a lovely filly, and we're talking about giving her another chance. But she's was not the shoulder this time. It was more off behind in her femur, right? I guess is the proper word. So yeah. We'll give her the time necessary, and she's got the looks, and she showed like she could run. So it's unfortunate we had to stop on her, but we didn't really have a choice.
Well, we've had champions that didn't start till much later in their career than the standard 2-year-old starter. So her looks and the way she does things gives you some hope that we've got a chance there. Nuclear. This is a 3-year-old colt. He's the half brother to Metro. Metro's a 2-year-old. Nuclear is the 3-year-old version. And he's on a similar timeline as Moonlight Mile. Needs a little bit of time, about 3 months out of training for a soft tissue issue. Thankfully, not a tear or anything like that, but a high suspensory inflammation, just soreness, etc. He's shown some promise in both his races. He finished 3rd on February 11th and on April the 9th. And John, I'm guessing this is another case where size and the way the action works has worked against him.
Yeah, it's just been an unlucky horse. Also, he had that freaky foot abscess, that, things, then we got him over that, and he's working and looking great. Then he come up with a little bit of a high suspensory. So good news is on the diagnostics, you're always trying, you asked a great horse surgeon once why he was such a great horse surgeon. You know what he said? I picked good cases. So this horse is a good case. We've stopped on him before anything went really amiss. We're going to have to give him this little bit of break. But I believe in this horse. I think he's a nice horse. So as soon as he gets over this, he'll be back next year and give another go.
Pony Express, we'll talk about him next. And he's about 2/3 of the way through his time off for just some bone bruising. So nothing terribly serious. It was diagnosed right after he was scratched at Del Mar this summer. I think it was the second week into it, or maybe it was opening weekend. Yeah, it might have been opening weekend. As much as this horse showed promise, he really looked the part that day, and he was training towards a sprint race this summer. I got to ask you, does that, bode well for him considering his pedigree isn't really cut out to be a sprinter. It's more of a two-turn gun runner out of a Quiet American mare who won the Fairgrounds Oaks.
I love Gun Runner. They're boy, we have a couple, two, three of them, and he has a terrific stallion, really good horse. This horse showed tremendous run. There's a little dispute between me and the state vet, but that was a judgment call that he had to make, and all the trends in horse racing are pro horse, which they should be, and I'm pro horse. So on the diagnostics, we found a little bone bruising. Nothing needed to be done other than give him this little short break. So I'm excited to get him back shortly and start to get him ready for next year, because he's a lovely horse and always shows plenty of run. You've seen him work. He was the favorite that day for a reason. So yes. The sooner we get him back, the better.
Prosper's up next. This is a 3-year-old colt. He was also a star at the Keeneland September yearling sale a couple years back. He was almost ready to race this spring. But really, John made just kind of a gut feel call. And John and his team felt like he needed to sit back, wait physically, wait mentally as well. And now he's advancing towards a return to the work tab. How's he look physically? How's he doing mentally now, John?
Beautiful. I had a really great day today. Galloped on the main track, galloped 1 1/8. He's one that you put on the report in a couple weeks. If you're in town that Breeders' Cup week, you probably can get to see one of his early works on the comeback trail. He showed he could run. We thought that he had a little jarred up, over the winter. So in order to have him best, we had to give him the time. But I think he'll reward us when he gets ready. And another reason to live till 2024. We've got some good horses.
Yeah, John's been putting off his retirement for a number of years now, and he's got plenty of reasons to keep on rolling here. Scarlet Avenue, this is an unraced 2-year-old filly. She's been working, very steadily over at Los Al, and then she moved over to John and his team at Santa Anita. Had a very nice work, at least, on paper yesterday on the training track at Santa Anita. And John, I've been dying to ask you what you thought of that work. You've been saying she's 2 turns.
Yeah, very nice work yesterday. She's a great big filly, and she'll be definitely a route horse. But we're going to start her. She's for the day after the Breeders' Cup. She's a definite for that now. We'll start her on the 5th. 1 time short before we stretch her out. Came out of it good. Just looked at her about a half hour ago. So we're looking forward to getting her started. And like I said, a nice big street sense filly. Looks like 2 turns will be a real thing. She worked with an older mare yesterday that won a couple of races and outworked her pretty nicely. So we're in good shape.
No, that's exciting. It's going to be a busy weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for us. And that's great. Scatify. This is a colt by Justify. He's a 2-year-old. He's at John's Los Al string, and he's had 3 published works. We found him at the Phasic Tipped at Mid-Atlantic sale this past May. He was a later arrival amongst all the 2-year-olds that went out to John. He came in mid-August. And Justify the Stallion has been on an absolute tear. He's had 3 2-year-old graded stakes winners just last week. What's the buzz or the vibe on this colt thus far, John?
Very good. Doing really well. It's going to breeze his first half mile on Friday coming up. They love his work so far. Came out of his little procedure after the sale really well. So he's just creeping up there. He could probably make the Del Mar Fall Meet, would be kind of the timing of it. And all good so far.
For those of you planning your calendar, the Del Mar Fall Meet is the month of November for the most part. Includes all those great races on the turf, that turf festival that used to be at Hollywood Park. So that's a great reason to go out and spend some time in beautiful Southern California, the San Diego County portion of it. Shore Road, Gunrunner colt, getting a couple months off for some bone bruising in his ankles. And John, I know the two of us were together when you had Shore Road at Del Mar for a good part of the summer. He had 3 short works, and I think he made a pretty good impression on you.
Great impression. This horse is he's the kid that was the kind of the kid, the screw up kid. He would have been voted most likely to drop his rider, or do something silly. But when we put him with another horse and worked him, he was a man. So, so you love that. We had to give him a little bit of an ankle, give him a little bit of time off, get him ready for next year, and plenty happy to give him the time because he showed. I loved what I saw when I worked him. And he went with always other good horses. He just put his nose out there in front and said, "Okay, I may play around a little bit galloping, but when you're on the line, he lines up like a tight end."
We both know that. Yeah, he's perfect. Slider. Wow. What a weekend he had. He's our new stakes winner. He won the Speakeasy, and he won it in a very colorful way, but also a powerful way. And he's now headed towards the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. We did some early talking about him, just kind of sizing up the competition with John, and we don't know about the Europeans. But John, I want you to elaborate a little bit about just the way this horse goes about his business and how relatively unique he is for a 2-year-old in that way.
Yeah, he's one of those 2-year-olds that's very mature, mentally and physically. He's done nothing wrong since he's been here. The only thing he did wrong, the other day, he ducked out a little bit at the quarter pole. But I think that was just maybe spooked a little bit, going too fast or got a little lost out there. That's easily corrected. We'll probably put a little stronger bridle on him for his next start. But I think, what I loved as you're watching this race, when that horse slipped through on the inside, he takes him back down next to him. And then when he gets down next to him, you just know he's going to beat him because he's very competitive. I think if he'd have drawn maybe like the 6 or the 7, he could have even, had a different trip where he showed when he broke his maiden, he laid second. I don't think he has to be in front. I kind of told him I wanted him to be in front the other day because when you're running the best horse and you draw the 2 in a 5/8 race, what you don't want to do is get bogged down and get stuck in traffic. So he got him right out there. He showed plenty of speed and won nicely. So, what's key is the next month getting him ready for that race. He'll have 2 works. I might have the option to work him on the grass. We usually don't have grass works, but we will for Breeders' Cup, I'm sure. So right now, fingers crossed, looking forward to the Breeders' Cup.
I would think so. Do you see any advantages to being a hometown horse, especially with 2-year-olds where they can maybe get a little bit squirrely and they're learning and they're maybe a little bit less seasoned than some of the older horses?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's right here at home. He's going to walk out of his stall and walk, across the road to go right to the paddock and go right. He'll be very comfortable, because we're at our home base. No travel. When you travel, you have things that can happen. Like you could have bad air flight connection, or you get long, delays at the airports. None of that for him. That's for everybody else this year. For him, he just gets to roll out of bed, roll over there and do his thing.
Excellent. Soho's next. This is our 2-year-old filly who ran 2 days ago in the Surfer Girl Stakes. She was stretching out off a debut win where she was sprinting. And boy, did she make a powerful move into the far turn, but then flattened out a little bit late. And John, I've been dying to ask you personally, what your assessment of that race was.
A couple of things. I mean, when you're going from 5/8 to a mile, I know she has plenty of zip, but you don't really want to, put him in front. We might have made a tactical error too, because I really thought, that Dreamfire would set a faster pace. And unfortunately for us, the pace was, walking in front of us. So you're kind of stuck waiting behind a slow pace So she put up a big run, and then flattened out a little bit. So she's just a young filly. I mean, I think, there's an allowance race for her on the, let's see the date on that. The 29th should go back in. I think this is a really good filly. We're hoping to make the Breeders' Cup with her, but that's not going to be the case. But I think she's got a big future ahead of her. And I really think she's a lovely filly.
Big, strong, beautiful filly who certainly has trained well against a number of our 2-year-olds that we have pretty high, thoughts about. So yeah, I concur. I think she's a talented and fun filly to watch going forward. We'll move on to Storming Machine. This is a 3-year-old gelding who broke his maiden up in wine country. First start of the year at August 11th at Santa Rosa. We had him entered for a turf sprint last weekend, but John wasn't 100% happy with how he was moving behind in the morning of the race and decided to scratch him. John, do you think it's just as simple as getting some treatment for those hocks?
That's what we did. We treated his hocks. You thought he was a little bit funny in his right hind, and the hock had a little filling. So we treated him. He's back on the track. He's doing well. We'll give him a work and then get him back in. He's actually doing really well. It's unfortunate timing that he didn't get a run the other day, but once again, this is how the game's being played a little bit right now. But he's got a good race coming up in his next race, so I'm looking forward to getting him out there.
Perfect. On to Tracker. This is a Curlin colt out of a Grade 1 winning mare, Gomo. He's 2. He had a gate work yesterday, going 5/8 on the dirt there at Santa Anita. I shared some photos of it on Chatter for the partners, and he progresses towards a debut race. I would suspect it'll be a sprint, but just in general, how's the colt shaping up in your eyes, John?
He's shaping up really nice. He's got a beautiful stride on him. He's a little bit different looking Curlin. He's not the chestnut. He's a bay Curlin, but I think he gets that from his mother. Got a beautiful stride on him. Another one I think will be 2 turns, but we'll give him one at a shorter distance to get him started. Either the last weekend here or the first week at Del Mar. And it looks like a prospect to me. I can't wait to see his second race, because he really strides nicely, and looking forward to getting him going. And we're close here, so that's the great news.
Man, they're stacking up like LAX, a number of these horses to get their either they debut or their next race. And so it's all very exciting. Unbridled Mary, she's a 4-year-old filly, won a stakes race earlier this summer on the turf at Lone Star. The Chicken Fried Stakes, I believe, is the name of that race. And just yesterday ran what I thought was just a beautiful first time stretching out, 3rd in the Swing Time Stakes. John, I wrote down to the partners that she was just really brave, just really, really tenacious and brave and competitive. Is that a good race to prep for the Ken Matty in your mind?
Oh, I think it's good. I mean, she's such a hard-trying girl. You got to love her as a horse. She's very honest, always runs a nice race. And yesterday I thought was exceptional. She's in a race with a very hot pace. But we thought the way that the turf has been playing on the quickish side, she probably is going to be laying second behind that other one. It looks like kind of a very fast filly. So I really delighted with her race. We got the Ken Matty for her. The date on that. That's the
Friday, I believe, of Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, that's the 3rd on Breeders' Cup. So it'll be nice. We won't have to do too much with her. When she comes back in 3 weeks, breeze her once, and she'll be all ready to go. And the nice thing about her for that race is, she's proven over that course. She's won down the hill before, runs it well. So looking forward to that. And came out of it well this morning. I got done checking her, and she looks very good. So I'm excited about it. I'm just checking the date on that.
I thought it was the Friday, but it may be a different day that week. Regardless, last but not least is Wimberley. This is our Curlin Dream Tree filly, another Curlin out of a Grade 1 winning mare. Wimberly is a 2-year-old filly. She is moving forward towards her debut. She's been working pretty steadily at Los Alamitos. She has, as I said, a beautiful pedigree. And John, just I don't know where she is absolutely in terms of moving over to you at Santa Anita.
Well, she was due to work her second half mile last Sunday, and we got fogged out. So she's working tomorrow, her second half mile. Then she'll be coming to me shortly after that. It's a pedigree I love. I love the dam. I saw her train here all the time for Bob Baffert. She's shown good run at Los Al. We're pretty confident already that she's going to make a good one. So we'll let her work tomorrow over there, and then she'll be coming to me shortly after that. So if you're here Breeders' Cup week, you can see her at Santa Anita. And she got a little shin, after her first 5. So we had to back up a little bit. It's resolved itself. So she's just getting back up there again. But good prospect here. And we think, the way her mother was, plenty of speed here also.
Wonderful. And we've reached the end, if you can believe it, of all the horses with John. Terry, if you're still on the line, I think I see you, but I'm not 100% sure, and you're on mute. Before we get to questions from everybody who is assembled here, and I see there's a number of partners that are on the line today, just give me your perspective on having a couple of really big shots, slider included, in the Breeders' Cup this year, both on Friday, and both with 2-year-old colts. You've been down this road before. We've won, Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. We won last year with a horse that I think everybody remembers the name of in the Classic. But just give me your thoughts on getting back here again with our partners with some two nice colts.
Well, it's a great path, Jeff, and I just want to say thank you to John and to all the partners. If you look at it, I mean, give or take, there'll be 180 horses from around the world. There'll probably be 40 from overseas. So you're talking about, let's say, 140 to 150 horses, but not just in the same age bracket, across the spectrum. So it's a really good thing to get here. And we certainly appear to be coming into the first Saturday or the first Friday in November with 2 very good shots, I think, led by Sadler, but I don't think Carson is that far behind him. So, it's an exciting time. And I agree with John. I think in the middle of the term, I'm not sure any of us would have went and put a lot of money into the pot that we were going to get to the winner's circle, but somehow, some way they do it. But we know the vast majority of horses that get out like that, they're not getting to the wire first. So I thought it was a really, really promising start in his stakes debut.
Thank you, Terry. I knew you wouldn't have any problem talking about how pumped you are for having a couple horses in the Breeders' Cup. It's a cool thing.
Sir.
And thank you to the partners for getting us there in the first place. Questions. Okay. So Q&A chat, you can raise your hand, and I'm going to kind of scroll through to make sure if there's anybody who's raising their hand. Got a quick question from Jeff. It has to do with horses training that are not Breeders' Cup horses, Breeders' Cup week. Jeff asks, if you get there during the week, will you be able to see some of the horses that we have with you, John, training there at Santa Anita?
The answer is yes. Contact whoever is leading the West Point thing, and they, we did that a lot with Jeff yourself this summer. You're great about letting me know what you're going, if you're coming out, and we'll tell you what time they're going, and I don't see why not.
Perfect. Another question from Robert. Robert wants to know, have you ever had these many 2-year-olds with West Point? And I think the answer is no, never.
No. We've got a lot, but I mean, a lot is good. It's you want to have a deep bench. You want to have good horses. Just speaking on myself, at this point in my career, this is what I'm looking to do. I'm trying to develop stake horses and potential champions. So that's why I'm so up on this call today, because, it's about what we're trying to do. We're not trying to win the 12-5 on a Thursday afternoon. We're trying to be in the Breeders' Cup and in the big races and the Derby, whatever. We're trying to play on the biggest stage with top level horses, and that's what it's all about.
Bill says, I got in on one of the yearlings that you bought at Keeneland. Is there a common theme? Are they all Derby prospects? Is what he asks.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the kind of colts we're not looking for they're Derby prospects. There you go. I can't say more than that, but I mean, that's what they are.
I think, elaborating or just kind of interpreting what Bill was asking. I mean, we're going into that sale looking for the types of pedigrees and the types of physicals that give us the chance to dream the dream. Would that be fair?
Yeah, absolutely fair.
I've got a question from, let's see, Joe. Joe wants to know, what time do you get started training in the morning? Because I guess he's coming out for Breeders' Cup as well, too.
Well, we're on the track with our first set at 5 a.m. Doesn't mean you have to be here at 5 a.m. Talk to Jeff Lipson about what time your horse is going, but we're here very early, and we'll be early Breeders' Cup week. There's a lot going on, and we have 3 renovations here. It's a busy morning. We have to march to get all our work done, but we're here, and we're here early.
Terry knows this because we were together on the rail last year at Keeneland. We got up really early to watch Flightline train, but Joe, you don't have to get up that early to watch the horses train. And that prompts a question from me, John. Is it most likely for those people that are coming in sort of like, to watch their Breeders' Cup horse, in this case, slider train, will you is there a specific time that you typically train him? And will that be altered typically Breeders' Cup week?
Shouldn't be altered. He usually goes for the first or second set. He goes early. So that'll be the same. I think there's going to be some new protocols they're talking about for the Breeders' Cup veterinarian team, where they might go on through the paddock. But he'll be going out early. He'll be before 6 o'clock. That's for sure. Maybe one day you might pick the day where he goes and stands in the gate, which doesn't open till 7. You can see him a little later. So generally early. They all go different times of the day, but we can coordinate that. We always have.
Yeah, and I know that you will typically school horses. I'm just trying to make the best bang for the buck for some of the partners. Do you typically school like the day before, like that Thursday afternoon, for example?
Oh, on the afternoon schooling, absolutely. Yeah, they'll probably go 2 or 3 days the day before. Sure. Yeah, so they'll be going in the paddock in the afternoon. Good chance to see him over there.
Hey, Joe, do you have a question? Joe Messick. Oh, he might have just been on for a second. I do have a question from Dennis Applejohn. I understand the Violence filly will be at Legacy Ranch, which is up there, I think, sort of not far from Sacramento, but, north, definitely north. And Dennis wants to know how long she will be training there, or how long she'll be in development there.
Yeah, well, Legacy Ranch is about 45 minutes south of Sacramento. So that's where it's located. Very nice farm, one of the best ones. Got a good experienced training team, and she'll be there. She's there now. They'll give her a little time after the sale and start to break her and get her galloping. Hopefully she'll be into us in April. And that all depends on, how their preliminary training goes. But she's there for the next, 4 or 5 months.
Dennis, thanks for your question. Appreciate that. Joe Messick, I think you raised your hand here. You can unmute yourself and ask a question if you do indeed have a question.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I was coming back to Nuclear. It's been a little frustrating ride with him. I think it's the second turnout for a 3-month rehab. And I was just wondering, and I'd asked this about a year or so ago, Is this colt just going to be too big?
John, prognosticate.
I mean, I have horses that I have to stop on that have turned out to be top horses. And I don't think it's the size. I just think it's, one of the, a tough luck type situation. I don't blame it on his size. Certain horses have issues and I have to deal with them, all the time. So I don't think he's just too big. He is a big horse. There's no question about it, but he showed he can run. So I don't think it's the size related. I just think it's, him a little bit, that the more pressing question would be is, do you think this horse will ever stay sound completely, or is he just one of those horses that can't stay together? And I think, that he can stay together. We just, we do right by him early on to give him a chance to be a nice older horse. I have a lot of older horses in my program. It's not just a program, with John Sadler where they run early as 2-year-olds and they're done. We're trying to develop horses. So I think he'll be good. It's take more time than others, but nothing that he, certain injuries, I feel are like, if you get a real messy fracture or some soft tissue that's, ruptured or something like that, then you say, they're probably not going to get there. But I think this horse, we've stopped on him early again, and I think the next round is the telling round. So we'll see.
Very good. Thanks, John.
And thank you, Joe. Let me see if we've got any other questions. We may have exhausted everything, and we certainly have spent a little bit of time with John, and we appreciate it, John. I know we've been on the phone for probably on the Zoom for about 50 minutes. Terry, I don't know if you're still on mute or if you're not, but I think it's very appropriate for you to kind of wrap things up here. It's been a great, sort of relationship with John and with all these horses on the West Coast. But if you could broaden that statement and talk about just what the entire West Point stable's been doing over the past, couple of months, really.
Yeah, we're getting after it every single day, Jeff. We know overall when you're around like guys like John Sadler and his team, right? There are no shortcuts. You've just got to do the right thing. You've got to use patience and time, right? It's the warrior that we all have if we use it right and we use it correctly. So being around, I'd say trainers like John and others, right? They teach you because we want to get better every year. And I think we do that. We talk about every horse every single week. And so we're going through, right, their development. And obviously, we all wish that we could keep horses sounder, but I know that we're with people that are on the lookout every single day. And it's a lot better, right, to stop a day short, right, than a day too long, or to be a day late. So anyway, just really happy with California, really happy with our stable across the country. And, we still got plenty of wins to try to get between now and the end of the year. So we are super pumped, and just an awesome yearling class that will make up the first part of the class of 2024, in addition to the 2-year-olds that we buy. So I do indeed think that the future is bright.
Thanks, Terry. I agree. John's got a big smile on his face. I think he concurs. So, John, we'll see you sooner rather than later here. It's going to be Breeders' Cup time before you know it. But thanks for your time this afternoon, and as always, your friendship and your guidance and your expertise.
All right. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing everybody in a couple weeks. It's not that far away. And, fingers crossed for a really nice October.
Thanks, John. Thanks to the partners.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
See you, everybody.